Ethiopia was the first African country to invite Black Americans and African descendants all over the world to come back to their ancestral homeland. As an Ethiopian myself, it makes me really sad to talk about this because I never learned it in school. No one talks about this, and this history is hidden from us. We understand why this huge history, relevant history, is hidden from us because the enemy benefits from us dividing. Watch this clip. We'll come back and discuss.
Most people don't know that Ethiopia, aka Abyssinia, was the first African country to call African Americans back to their homeland. Empress Zatu was the first queen of kings of Ethiopia from 1916 to the 1930s. Zatu wrote a letter also known as the Call to Africa. This letter was an open invitation to African Americans and other African descents to return to Ethiopia, their ancestry homeland. This letter offered land grants and Ethiopian citizenship to those who returned. Zatu also stressed the importance of preserving African culture and heritage. This letter resonated with Marcus Garvey. He was a prominent Jamaican African leader who saw Ethiopia as a symbol of African pride and independence. And this was the start of Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, which actively promoted the idea of returning to Africa. Zatu's letter helped influence the Pan-African movement. As her letter is hard to find online, I got in contact with the researcher Julia Bonanchi, who sent me an excerpt from her book that mentions. She first explained how the invitation left some traces because it was shared during the UNIA convention. As is mentioned in her book, the Queen of Abyssinia assured them of cordiality, which I invited them back to the homeland, particularly those qualified to help solve our big problems and to develop our vast sources, teachers, artisans, mechanics, writers, musicians, professional men and women.
Empress Zewditu wrote a letter called Call to Africa. This was addressing African descendants that were taken away from Africa or sold by some of our own sellout ancestors. Empress Zewditu was communicating reportedly with Marcus Garvey to open Ethiopia, to bring African descendants to their home. Unfortunately, it never happened because Empress Zewditu was unalived and Marcus Garvey was deported, right? So this part of history that happened in the 1920s is hidden to the point where even Pan-Africans don't know about this. You might say, why is it so important? This happened in the 1920s. It's relevant because it shows what kind of unity and solidarity was there even in the 1920s. Even in the 1920s, our people were trying to come together. But it never happens because it's a risk for others. It will bring total chaos if us, Black people, come together, if we help each other, if we build each other. It's a threat. We just don't know it, we just don't see it. And a lot of our history has been hidden from us. Usually we hear about the divisiveness and the hate that we have for one another, and they highlight and they show us when we don't like each other. Even the algorithm pushes that toxicity that is between certain groups of people, and it pins us against each other. I believe history is there so we can learn from it and we can improve and we can do better. And this history for me is relevant because it shows us that there's an enemy that doesn't want us to come together. Our ancestors actually wanted to reunite, wanted to come together and work as one. But each time they tried to do that, it was shut down. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about this history. Did you know about it or you're just finding out about it? I am Wongel Zelalem.